as I say, I'm just watching the numbers go up. So
I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. Maybe I should start just introducing myself. I'll just switch on my camera, and then anybody who would like to introduce themselves can do so. I hope that you can all see me. I can't see myself, though. I don't know what's happening here on the screen. But good afternoon, everybody. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Lynn Kleinveld. I'm the acting chair of LIASA, the Higher Education Library and Information Interest Group. Sorry, and I wish you all well and a warm welcome to our coffee conversation. Very informal. This is the second one we're having this year. So welcome to everybody.
perhaps when we get to the sort of magic number of 100, we can start.
Okay, sure.
And we're almost there. We're almost there.
I see 96. 97 now. Oh dear, somebody's busy mowing the lawn.
Right, just a couple more to go, and then I think we should start.
Okay. Ingrid, I've just shared the slide again, so I'm just reminding you that I'm not able to see the chat or anything at the moment.
Okay. All right, I think we've reached the magic number. So
okay.
Yes.
All right.
Let's start.
Okay. Thank you. Once again, good afternoon, colleagues and our colleagues from near and far. A warm welcome to our HELIG conversation over copy sessions. And today we especially welcome you to this very hot topic in a time of uncertainty, but surely open for innovative opportunities. We certainly find ourselves in a global e-book dilemma in these strange times, affecting academics, librarians, and especially our users. In a time when access to electronic resources made possible by academic libraries should be far more easier due to the shift from print to electronic, it is found during the current COVID-19 pandemic that we face a dilemma regarding access, in particular to prescribed textbooks. Most of the South African publications that academics prescribe across disciplines are mainly available in print only, and some publishers limit access to the electronic version on a one-user or individual purchase model basis, excluding library acquisitions. If we consider the theme for South African Library Week being Libraries Matter, it is fundamental that all stakeholders work together towards reaching our goal of inclusivity and bridging the digital divide. Let me hand over to Ingrid now to give us some insight onto what triggered the spark on this topic for today. Ingrid, over to you.
Okay. I don't know if you want to take this slide away so we can have the, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that we can at least then all at least see the chat and the pop-up. So in fact,
Sure.
this was triggered by seen initially a statement that had come from the University of Guelph libraries about e-books and e-textbooks and the problems that they were having, where they'd actually named a few publishers as being as not wanting to sell the textbooks to the institution, to the library for the students. And that I then saw there was a whole there were a number of responses in the States as well. And then I saw, in fact, Joanna is with us. I'm very happy to say Joanna Anderson's tweet and the start of the ebook SOS campaign, where essentially it was about this whole problem. And sort of looking at what was being said, I realized that actually, I mean, we're sitting with the same problem. It didn't matter that this conversation was happening in the global north. We actually sit with the same problem here in our country, and I'm sure it's pretty much across the world, where with the pandemic has just shown up those divides and the inequalities and the difficulties. And yes, the publishers kind of came to the party in the first, up until the end of June sort of thing, like that was when the pandemic was going to be over. We moved from, certainly with my own institution, we moved from what was termed emergency online teaching. So it was a crazy finding the e-resources, seeing what you could get, to now it's kind of part of I think almost part of normal teaching. I would think. So that kind of sparked the conversation. So Lynn and I were having a conversation about it, and we thought, oh no, we actually need to just have this conversation with colleagues and see how people are handling this. And this is that, as I say, that was when the spark happened. And I must say, I must really thank the and I'm Joanna. I think you've kind of led the activism and the quest to unpack this whole issue. So that's from me. I think we all are experiencing that same issue, where, I mean, right now that certainly it's the start of our academic year, and the number of requests that I'm getting, certainly from academics that I deal with, sort of with problems in particular with the prescribed textbooks. They've gone and prescribed a textbook, and actually, can we have this as E? Well, no, it's not available as E, or we have to kind of try and make some sort of a plan. So we thought this would be a really good discussion that we could have, and that's where we're going to launch it from. So Lynn, back to you to kind of take kind of start the ball rolling, to open the floor.
Thank you, Ingrid, for setting the scene for us. And yes, surely we need to have these conversations, because I think we all are experiencing this challenge, and how should we deal with it? We certainly don't have all the answers, and that's the purpose of having these coffee conversations, that we open up the floor and engage with the various stakeholders, and just hear what's the way forward. So I would like to open the floor now and maybe start posing a question regarding collection development. What does our collection development policy say about ebooks and prescribed books? And does it accommodate our users looking at the current situation we find ourselves in, or what is needed? So please, you may unmute your microphone if you'd like to speak, or you can type your comments or any questions that you have, burning questions on this topic. You can type it also in the chat space.
Okay, so who wants to go first? I mean, you know, the collection policy, what do our collection policies actually say about ebooks and buying prescribed textbooks, for example? I mean, pre-COVID even.
Yes. I mean, I recall, and my colleagues from CPUT who are in the session can just assist me here, because I know at some point the collection development policy was being reviewed. But I do recall that the library would purchase 5 copies of a print prescribed textbook, and academics would attach the subject guides as a motivation for that. So obviously in the subject guide, it needed to be indicated that that particular textbook has been prescribed, but that is print. Now the question is, do the same apply to an electronic copy? Is it even possible to prescribe a book and have multiple access users, licensing, etc.? I'm not sure.
Joanne, I see. I'm afraid, yes. Joanne from CPUT, Joanne Arendse. Do you want to comment? Is it still the same? Is it still the same policy?
Hello, colleagues. Yes, I was starting to type, and then I knew Ingrid or Lynn will come in at some or the other time and say, speak out. Thank you, Lynn, for chairing this session. It's always nice.
It's a pleasure. Yeah. And welcome, Joanne.
Yeah, no, it's busy time, as you know. Yes, this is such an important topic that we are discussing here. Like you indicated, yes, our collection policy did indicate 5 copies of a print title, but even at that time already, our whole emphasis was on migrating to E. So in our purchasing model, we were advised as librarians to give preference to the e-book already at that stage if it was available. Now, when COVID came, as you know, the print copies was not available to our users and students anymore. So, massive train smash. And yes, I totally agree with Ingrid. We had the privilege of vendors making available for free a lot of the content for students to use in the first 6 months of 2020. After then, again, problems. So we had big fights with suppliers such as Van Skyk, for me working in education, who does not have any of the titles accessible through the university ebook licensing agreements. And a lot of the textbooks that we purchase are from these publishers. So that was a massive concern. And as a university, we subscribe to certain ebook suppliers or publishers, vendor, whatever you call it. But in any rate, needless to say that we could, in most of these cases, only purchase limited access to titles. And if it is now Lynn's group with 500 first-year students in her class, we could only purchase, let's say, three licenses per title, because these titles are so extremely expensive. So again, the first thing when COVID came is we all now were totally migrating to ebook, and that is when the pop-off really struck the fan, because many of these titles, or a great number of it, we couldn't find in and supply to our students while they do not have access to the print title. So now, even with our purchase models, now for our prescribed textbooks, we once again are seeking to buy the ebook models, and we are really tearing our hair out of our head, because again, we are faced with the same problem. We do not find some or many of these titles accessible or with a licensing model that fits the need of our university students, and that we can make accessible to multiple users simultaneously, and not just go for these individual subscriptions, which is extremely costly. So that's where we are at the moment. It's all going that's what our lecturers are asking. That is what we are providing, want to provide, but in the market we're stuck with a problem that we do not find the book, first of all, in the format. And when it is in the format, there is so many licensing that goes with it, and it is also limited access. So that is a massive, massive barrier, which I'm hoping I will get some answers to for now.
Absolutely, Joanne. I can just,
I'm so excited about this. This talk should have taken.
Joanne, I really felt it last year as an academic, and exactly what you mentioned there. Of course, I prescribed a textbook, not knowing we were entering a pandemic, and when we were now in this situation, the publisher had an electronic format. However, it was based on individual purchase, meaning and when I approached the library, because that was immediately the first thing, when we had to go into emergency online teaching, and of course we academics had to find ways of now rethinking and quickly on the fly, like we used to call cataloging on the fly back not too long ago. Really had to think quickly how to deal with this, and in terms of content, copyright issues, etc. And so what was really, I think, for many academics, a real challenge was when we couldn't purchase the electronic copy via the library because of these restrictions, where the publishers were not allowing that form of arrangement where we could make that electronic copy accessible to our students. So it's a huge challenge, and we have students that they really want to learn, but unfortunately they are at a disadvantage because the libraries, of course, were closed. They could not access the book from short loan, but they couldn't afford to purchase the copy and the one user purchase was unfortunately something that they could not do. So we were really faced with a challenge with these restrictions. I'm not sure if there are any publishers in the room who maybe have some answers, but I don't know. It's really, and I hope maybe colleagues, I don't know if you have other options. For this year, I had to once again rethink the whole situation, looking at what is currently in our collections that's got a multiple user access, because that is the other thing with the ebooks and access to it. For example, one book or title that I identified as a key title for our users had restrictions, so these are really some of the challenges that we are facing. And maybe, I don't know, Ingrid, if you want to add to that, or anybody in the room. Thanks, Joanne.
Okay, I wanted to say the other thing that was quite interesting. I mean, during the COVID time, we had there was that concession from Delro, where if you didn't have if the book wasn't, if the chapter or whatever wasn't available as you could actually and you had it in you that control what is controlled digital lending, where you actually had that copy in the print copy in the library, and some kind of a concession could be made. But I was just looking at what had come out from the Czech office here in the Western Cape for the publishing liaison office, and it wasn't, and that was sort of in that early part of the COVID pandemic, when we all were running around, everyone was running around trying to get resources. I mean, at the start of the big lockdowns. And I don't know, does anyone know whether that still applies, or did that also kind of come to an end at the end of June, when all the other concessions came? And I'm also quite intrigued. I know Denise Nicholson is on this call. Denise, does controlled digital lending, I mean, it doesn't work with the, sort of, what are the implications around copyright? If you could, because I think that was that's quite an interesting thing. And the new the copyright bill, would that help solve some of these problems?
Can I come in then? Hi, everyone.
Yes, please.
Yes, I wanted to say a few things just before I answer what you're saying. I just wanted to say that, if you consider ebooks are much more limited than hard copies for a number of reasons. For a hard copy, you can buy, sell, loan, donate, copy, give as a gift. You can copy even in terms of fair dealing. Or if you're in a fair use copyright regime, you can copy a portion of it. You can even give it, you can highlight it, you can write on it, you can even pulp it if you want to. The book is owned by whoever buys that book, and you basically can do what you like with it. But an ebook is not the same. It's basically a licensed, I don't even think you can call it an asset, because the library, if they stop paying, you actually probably lose all of it, or unless you've got a contract to continue keeping it. But essentially, an ebook is not owned by a library. It's just a licensed, which I can call it an asset at this stage. But and essentially, the copyright law in most ebook contracts, the copyright law is overridden by the contract law. So the license overrides whatever copyright exceptions you may have. Now the new bill has a clause that says you cannot do that. So libraries have been used to signing contracts for years and signing off and overriding copyright exceptions, and you've been told you can't do this, you can't do that. Now, if it overrides copyright exceptions, then the agreement would not be enforceable, which is something IFLA and IFL have been pushing for many years, and we managed to get it into the copyright law because it's also in the IFL model copyright law, which I gave to the DTI, and they took quite a lot of things from it. So we hoped, and that is something that there's a lot of opposition to by rights holders, because they're so used to overriding copyright laws and getting what they want. So that is something positive that will come out of the new bill if it ever gets passed. Another thing is with ebooks is it's so limited. As you say, you can't buy it. The library is not able to buy it, and they expect students to buy them, and they're too expensive. But even if the student can afford one, they can't share it with their friends. They can't sit and have a conversation and share it with their friends like you can with a book. They can't, you can't exceed the number of users that the license says. So if it says 5 users, you can't use more. You do get some that are multiple users, and you'd obviously have a contract in that sense, but essentially they limit the usage to a limited audience. Also, the cost of them obviously are ridiculous, and you may know that there's the Amazon.com and the big 5 publishers have been accused of ebook price fixing, which is another issue entirely. I'm still trying to hear the outcome of find a report on the price fixing of textbooks, hard copy textbooks in South Africa, which you may know. Sorry, the Competition Commission, I think it was at least 2-3 years ago, they started an investigation into price fixing of hard copy textbooks by PASA and all their members. And I've tried to get reports from time to time, and they just say it's such a big job that it'll take a long time. But the ebook one is obviously they're doing the same thing internationally, and that's you've got no choice. You buy it at the price they fix, and you have no choice. And so I think I personally think that ebooks might even in the future disappear, because if you can't use the book as you wish and you can't serve your users, you are likely to go back to a hard copy, because at least you know that you own it and you can do what you want with it, and your users can benefit from it. Interesting, I went to, when we were in Singapore for IFLA a few years back, I visited one of the research institutes at the Singapore University, or the National University of Singapore. And there was a guy who was giving us a tour, and he was an archivist, but he was the director of that institute. And I said to him, I noticed you haven't got any ebooks, on your catalog. He said, I'm not ever going to buy any. So I said, oh, that's strange, because everybody else is going the route. And he said he doesn't believe that they will be around in 10, 15 years' time. He said, because if you can't use something that's physical, and he gave examples of researchers, if you go to a researcher's desk, they've always got all sorts of books all over, and they're comparing things. You can't do that with an ebook either. When you're on a page of an ebook, you can't, go and look at 100 other things and compare, but with books, hard copies, you can. And he predicts that in time, ebooks won't be around. He even said that audiobooks are becoming more popular than ebooks for various reasons as well. But from a copyright point of view, unless the contract allows you to do something, you can't do it. So that's why we also desperately want, apart from all the other exceptions, that's one of the exceptions we do want in the new bill, is to allow you to make a copy in terms of fair use or fair dealing, and not have to be restricted by a license.
Yeah, so licensing doesn't really trump the copyright bill when the copyright bill is actually signed and enforced.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah.
Yeah, if that, and I think that clause will go through if everything else goes, because it wasn't one, if I remember, that was sent back for constitutional issues. But we don't know the future of this bill. You know, I'm hearing from various people, the opponents of the bill are lobbying very strongly to stop this bill. It could go through a whole process where it has to go back to the provincial legislators and get votes there. And I mean, it could take another 4 or 5 years. It could go back to the drawing board, where it'll probably take another 10 or 20 years. So we actually don't know. We've got various people looking at the constitutional issues of it and, you know, suggesting that there aren't any constitutional issues. But the other side keep saying there are. So I think it would be good if the Parliament just sent it back to the President and send it to the Constitutional Court and let's get a directive. And then,
Yes.
you know, we all know, instead of going through this, you know, long delay. There's also pressure, obviously, from the US and the EU have put a lot of pressure on our government not to sign the bill. And that's because of a petition from multi-billionaire conglomerates in the publishing and entertainment industry, mainly in America, petitioned the US government to, you know, make sure that this bill doesn't go through. And
Oh, yes, there were those threats.
Yeah, and they're still there. I think they're not going away.
Okay,
yes.
Currently, our ebook situation is the same. You can't do what, unless the license allows you to do it, you can't do much else. Regarding the digital lending, there's a whole debate going on. There's studies going on in Canada, because some libraries in Canada are doing it.
Yeah, yes, I can hear you. You kind of
Archive.
faded there. Yeah.
The Internet Archive seminar recently, it was very interesting. Can you hear me? Hello?
Oh, yes,
we can hear you. Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yes, because I mean, it seems a very logical thing to be able to do is to make a portion of a book available digitally for your users. And that's my doorbell going.
Oh dear.
Feather dusters in my book.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's something that IFLA and IFLA and that we're all looking at the moment. It's certainly not something that the publishers want, but it seems that, I mean, already the publishers are suing the Internet Archive for putting up stuff on the web as well. But all it is making your book, you take your hard copy, you make a digital copy of it, and then you put your hard copy away so nobody can use that. And then people use the digital one like any other hard copy, that only one user would be able to use it at a time. And they'd have to, you know, book it and loan it and that. It's really just putting a digital copy up there instead of a hard copy. So one wonders what the difference is, but the publishing industry are very against it. So it will be interesting to see what develops in that. But I am involved in those discussions, so I'll try and keep you up to date from time to time.
Okay, that would be very useful. I see Johannie Steyn has got her hand up. Do you want to unmute yourself and say something?
Yes, I'm Johannie Steyn from the University of Johannesburg. And I must be honest, our experience were much more positive than what I'm been hearing in this forum. We got about 60% of our prescribed textbooks from aggregators and publishers. Usually we buy our text or our normal ebooks, perpetual access. We try to own them. They're on a lending model where multiple students can use them. Where it's a one user, we try to buy more than one copy at least. With a textbook, we usually, with the print content, had a policy where we buy one copy per 100 students, because at UJ, it's still the student's responsibility to buy his own textbook. If it's print or if it's digital, it doesn't matter to us as long as they have their own copy. So we are just basically like a backup service for them if they really can't find it or they've got theirs. So with the ebook policy of textbooks, we changed it due to COVID as well, to 1 copy per 50 students. And that was now for the print as well. But we are basically enforcing that on the ebooks, textbooks as well. And I must say we had very positive feedback, and our ebook stats went through the roof. And we are really getting good feedback. If we see we don't have enough copies and we have a lot of turnaways, we use the turnaways as a motivation to buy more copies if it's not unlimited users, or if there's a possibility of buying more. Because what we also saw is, as soon as certain publishers sees that we are buying more and more copies of the ebook, they retract the book and you can't buy it again. But luckily, because we buy to own, we don't lose the copies we have. A new model that the University of Johannesburg is starting this year, we are negotiating with publishers to subscribe to textbooks for a period of 12 months for a certain price, and it's unlimited users. And I have now already had 3 publishers that came on board that were prepared to do this model. And I'm very positive about it. So to me, an ebook is a good thing, and our students love them. To read a book cover to cover as an ebook is very difficult. So that's why we tell our students to rather go and try to purchase the print still. And because our books are still on a lending model, they lose the book after a period of time. So it's they can go back and lend it again, but it's not theirs to own. So we direct them to Vital Source. Vital Source is a very good platform for students to go and buy their own ebook if that is what they prefer, or our normal bookshops if that is what they prefer in print. So that's our experience. What we've also been doing is, where we really can't find, like you mentioned, Van Skyks, mostly Pearson, McGraw-Hill, those publishers are very stingy with their ebooks, or putting their books out as ebooks. What we did from last year is we went through our copyright officer to Dalro and asked if we can get an extension on the copyright law of the content, how much you can take out of a book. And where we got approval, we actually put it up as an electronic course reserve on our library system for students to use a portion of the book that the lecturer then will identify pages, portions, chapters, and then if we get copyright approval, that is what we put out for students to use, unlimited usage. So that's our experience. I hope that helps some people. But yeah, we've been very blessed. And like I said, we got 60% of our prescribed textbooks where the library could actually purchase it and give it out to the students to use.
Okay, thank you. That was actually very interesting.
Yes, indeed.
Interesting strategy. Yeah. I mean,
thank you for sharing that. There's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and that just it just shows why this conversation was needed. You know, that we can at least share with one another what works, what options are there. One thing that came up also in the comments in the chat, it keeps on shifting, and I'm trying to follow everything, but it's the issue of accessing also the electronic book and the issue of data. So with some of the licenses, you are only able to read that book online. You cannot download sections of it. If we think about the data issue, that is also challenging for our users if they have to be connected to the internet all the time to read the content. So I don't know what colleagues are thinking about those issues where one is not able to download sections of the electronic book. And then perhaps I should pose this question. Is it really the responsibility of the library to provide access to the prescribed textbooks? Or is it the responsibility of the student to ensure that they purchase the textbooks?
I mean, I think that's part of the problem. I mean, in the webinar on Monday that Johannie Arendse has put the link into in the chat. I mean, I think one of the things that there was a comment about you know, so that all academic material are textbooks, whether they are prescribed or not, and you know, sort of, so what do we mean by textbooks? You know, is it all academic material? And something we've actually not touched on is obviously the pricing. Denise kind of mentioned it in passing, but it's what about the pricing? The cost, the difference between the print cost and the cost that is charged to the academic library, and in fact there's again coming out of the hashtag ebook SOS campaign, that is led by Joanna and other colleagues. There is actually a spreadsheet of some of some of examples of this. So it's and looking at that, I mean, it's all material that we are actually using. I mean, research methodology material, SPSS guides, etc. And when you know, sort of, okay, so on that spreadsheet it's in pound price, but you know, we need to add the conversion, the exchange rate. Okay, thank you, Joanna. With the exchange rate, which also, I mean, you know, sort of, so something is something like £400 in that you'll see examples in the spreadsheet. Well, multiply that by what is the current exchange rate? Well, let's just call it 21 Rand to the pound. You know, and it might just be a single user license. So I mean, that is also something that pops up, and you know, it's unlimited. You know, who's got unlimited budgets? We use the same. We use just to say we are. I mean, for many of us, we use the same database. That this data has come off on that Google spreadsheet, that this data has come off. We you know, sort of our usual places that we go and look for ebook pricing for the institution, which is quite often quite difficult to actually, you know, to get academics and students to understand that the price that the publisher puts on his page as the price for the ebook is for them as an individual, not for you, not for the institution, and that is often a difficult, you know, they not always understood. Yeah.
Sure. And maybe just another thing, colleagues, what about resource sharing and with regards to ebooks? You know, I think that also came out of the ebook SOS discussion on Monday, where there's restrictions on sharing of resources when it comes to electronic books. So that's another issue, you know. So the question is, you have a print book and your you are able to share that, but if you have the electronic copy, you're not able to share even a portion of that with another library through interlibrary loan agreement or anything. So that's another issue. Yes, and Ingrid, probably yes, it's time to push open educational resources. It's a time maybe for academics also to consider the academic material, open books.
Yeah, I mean, there are some, I mean, for example, sorry, I'm not putting you on the spot, Caroline Dean, my colleague, but there's open, the open textbooks that we've got. Is it 4 of them that we've got now, or is it 3?
I'm lost, Ingrid.
The open access textbooks from Open UCT, because we've got the
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it 3 or 4 of them that we've got?
It's 3 or 4. I don't know.
Okay, let me see if I can actually find a link to that, because we've got the, oh wait, there we go. Let me just pop this in the chat. Where we
Thanks,
are,
Ingrid.
yeah, where we've got, there are open access textbooks, but this is all sort of fairly new, because UCT is now taking on, like UCL, like UCL is moving into the publishing realm. There are certainly textbooks that are being created, which is I guess one way round the publishing, is for the academics to write their own, to put together their own material. Are any other institutions in South Africa doing that? Anyone? Oh, it's gone all quiet.
I was trying to. I can't keep track with the chat space jumping all the time with the comments. Ingrid, I don't know if you're able to keep track, but there were some interesting comments that came through on the chat, and it keeps on jumping. I read a comment and then I see.
Okay,
I'm back to the last one, so I don't know if there's anything that you've picked up in the chat.
Just as an example, Gavin Phillips has given the worst price he'd heard in the UK was £92,000 for 1 year of access. Well, if you translate that into South African, into rands, it's 1.9 million. That's just not going to. It's just not going to fly. Yeah.
I see Denise also mentioned that there's a lot of open textbooks and ebooks on LibGuide that she compiled at WITS. So yeah, do search WITS Open Access LibGuide and you'll be able to see that. Thank you.
I'm going to just add another one into the chat. I mean, this was put up by my own institution as well, which is also those links to those open access textbooks, open access resources. But it's nightmarish. And right now we are getting, this is at the start of the academic year. This is where the pressure is on. I've just ordered, we've actually got access to, again, it was a textbook for our first year linguistics, which has come through the Snaplify platform. all very good and well. We've got it, but the hoops that the students have to jump through to create a special login, to create a special login, to actually download the software, the reader, so that they can read it, and then the book is only literally issued for a day, although I think we can probably fiddle with that, but it's the prescribed textbook, and there are about 300 students in the class. And the at least I think there are about 300 students in the class, and they can't download or save or anything like that now. So they have to work with it online. I don't know if any of them have cottoned on that maybe the best way to actually download or to actually keep a copy is to do some screenshots, like one does with Google Books. But that's not, it's not my place to I'm not going to tell them that they I'm sure will discover.
I'm just, one of the colleagues made a comment and then it jumped, but perhaps, I'm not sure if there's other academics in the room this afternoon, but I think it's a time for academics and librarians really to collaborate, and let's look at those open access titles, and looking at the curriculum, what relates to various topics, and prescribing those instead of the closed access published material. Perhaps that's an option.
Yes, I would think that is probably an option. That could, you know, it is probably time to start having those conversations. You know, promoting those open access textbooks, or the open access publications that are available, the directory to open, you know, DOB, and the very pointing people to the various publications that are available, and maybe that might be as alternatives. But but then we've got to get past the whole thing is of the academics writing for the big publications. I mean, there's what is the word? I mean, there's the research, not the research impact. There's all that. There's all the you know, sort of the metrics and the publishing in that whole publishing thing. I'm sorry, I'm getting my words. I'm getting my words a bit muddled here. But again, you know, sort of the DHET requirements, the subsidy requirements.
Yes. It's that constant battle between DHET accredited publications and also that stigma that's still out there, and I think we really need to have more conversations. Okay, yeah, I've got my librarian hat on again. I'm always switching between the two, but to have that conversation with academics and encourage open access publishing, I think that is the way to go. I do recall a few years ago, I made this bold statement at the University of Bologna when I was still a PhD student, and I had a panel of academics sitting in the room, and I said, I think we need to perhaps stop subscribing to these expensive databases and rather focus on what are academics where are they publishing, and that they publish open access, and we only concentrate on that and use the budgets for the fees, and it was the reaction from faculty. You cannot say that. Because they have the pressure of specific journals or publishers where they need to, because of the pressure they get in terms of where to publish and all of that. I don't know. It's still an ongoing debate, but we surely need to keep on trying and keep the conversation going, because I think that's the only way we at least going to try and reach some agreement in terms of the way forward.
Okay.
It is 1 minute to 3 on my side. Perhaps I can just, Ingrid, is there something you wanted to add?
No, I wanted to say that I mean, you can hear from this that it's not just this is not just a problem for the global South. It's something that and for the global North, it's actually right across the board. And I think the pandemic has actually, I mean, the inequalities were always there before, but not so in your face. The pandemic has actually made it has literally, you cannot ignore the ebooks and things, even things like the pricing, like the pricing models, the licensing and all of that. And I just want to say, I just want to kind of acknowledge again that the work that has been done elsewhere in the world, further north, Joanna and her colleagues has kind of sparked this discussion. So I sort of, so before we even end off, I just want to sort of acknowledge the hashtag ebook SOS campaign. And if you are on Twitter, look for the hashtag and see the conversations over the years. Over it feels like years, it's not years, hey, over the last few months. I don't know, Joanna, would you like to sort of have a last sort of make any kind of comment, if you want?
Thanks, Ingrid, and thanks for this. It's been really fascinating to see the situation in different contexts. I think it's a really important point about how, if we're struggling in the more wealthy nations, then for poorer countries it's just impossible. I really hope that the increasing interest and push for open access textbooks will in turn have a knock-on effect, and there'll be more available globally. I don't know if you remember that UCL were talking about that, was it like reconstructive surgery book that they've published?
Yes.
That was published open access because they wanted people to be able to access it globally. I think publishers have to be mindful as well about the data issues. If you can't download the book, you can't access it online. I think finally, IFLA have got a kind of mission statement of libraries and what our role is, and the discussions about whether it's our responsibility to provide access to prescribed reading. I think that's pretty much covered in there. I think it's part of our mission, because not everybody has access to the finances and the resources that they need, and that's part of our job. So I think we've got to be careful about kind of taking that dialogue on and saying, well, it's not really our job to provide that stuff. We just need to think of different ways of doing it. But I really appreciate your support, Ingrid. fantastic just to have all of these people from across the globe fighting this challenge together is really encouraging, and hopefully we can all help each other.
Yes, I think so. I really think so. So you can look.
Sorry, that was a bit of a waffle.
Yeah, you can look for Joanna on Twitter as well. I think there's been some interesting developments. I was just seeing tweets from earlier on today. So you know, there's a lot of push in the UK's, and a lot of those arguments are the same arguments that they go right across the board.
I was interested in the competition markets regulation and how it's considered too complex, and that's kind of exactly in the and it takes too long. That's exactly kind of where we are now. We have had some interest from the Competition and Markets Authority, and we're waiting to see, but that's what we always hear back. So I think it's really important we start to do this ourselves and fix these issues ourselves.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. We probably can make this another hour, but I think a number of us have got other meetings, and this is supposed to be a coffee break.
Yes. Indeed, but it just shows
coffee break. There is the last note there that says that says, thank you, colleagues, for an interesting coffee break. Looking forward to the next one. And on that note, I am going to say to Lynn, you wanted to do a little ad for the next coffee break.
Oh, yes.
to kind of give a hint.
Yes. And thank you, colleagues, for all your wonderful comments this afternoon, and really for the active engagement on this. It just shows that we need more of these. So on that note, I would like to inform that we do have an upcoming topic, and we will be posting it, so please watch the space. And the next topic is going to focus on tips or best practices on teaching information literacy online, low data or no data. So that will be our next coffee conversation, HELIG coffee conversation, and we'll keep you posted on the date. So thank you very much. Thank you, Ingrid, for facilitating this conversation with me this afternoon. Thank you to everybody. Keep well, have a lovely afternoon, and see you at the next coffee conversation. Keep well and stay safe. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.